Disclosure: educational content developed with AI.
Imagine a world of tradition, where the path for a woman is narrow and predetermined. Now, imagine a voice, soft but unyielding, rising from the heart of that world to capture the attention of the globe. This is the story of Grazia Deledda, a woman who, with no formal education, and from a remote Italian village, scaled the heights of world literature and became the first Italian woman to win the Nobel Prize. Her weapon was her pen. Her shield was her resilience. This is a story that proves, once more, that when women rise, history changes. Grazia Maria Cosima Damiana Deledda was born on September 27, 1871, in Noro, Sardinia, a place she would later describe as a Bronze Age village, isolated and steeped in ancient customs. She was the fourth of 7 children in a middle-class family. Her world was small, but her kitchen was not. It was a bustling hub where travelers, friends, and relatives would gather, sharing stories of tragedy, romance, and fate. The quiet, observant Grazia absorbed them all, storing away the raw material of her future novels. Her formal education was brutally short, just 4 years of elementary school, deemed sufficient for a girl of her time. But a fire had been lit, with the encouragement of her uncle, a learned clergyman, and through her father's own love for books and poetry. Grazia embarked on a mission of self-education. She devoured literature in Italian, French, Russian, and English, educating herself in a foreign language, Standard Italian, which was different from her native Sardinian dialect. This was her first quiet act of rebellion. At the astonishing age of 13, encouraged by a tutor, Grazia submitted a story to a fashion magazine. It was published. This should have been a moment of celebration. Instead, it sparked a scandal in her conservative hometown. A woman writing, exposing the stories of her people, was an affront. Her family was unsupportive, and society looked on with scorn. But Grazia Deledda did not stop. She persisted in writing, publishing her first novel, Fiori di Sardegna, Flowers of Sardinia. In 1892, she was turning the struggles, poverty, and passions of the Sardinian people into art. Blending the imaginary with the autobiographical, she was documenting the world, and in doing so, she was defying it. In 1899, her life took a pivotal turn. A trip to Cagliari, the Sardinian capital, led her to meet Palmiro Madesani, a civil servant. They married just 2 months later, in January 1900, and moved to Rome. This move offered her a new life, away from the critical eyes of Noro. But this was not an escape. It was a relocation of her mission. She embraced the roles of wife and mother to 2 sons, Sardis and Francesco. Yet, she fiercely protected her creative space. In a time when women were expected to abandon personal ambitions for domestic life, Deledda instituted a rigorous, unbreakable writing schedule. Her day was structured: breakfast, reading, lunch, a nap, and then 2 to 3 hours of writing in the afternoon. This discipline resulted in a prolific output of almost a novel a year, over 30 novels, and hundreds of short stories in her lifetime. Her work began to resonate far beyond Italy. Novels like Elias Portolu 1903 and Can al Vento Reads in the Wind 1913 earned her international acclaim. Her stories, though rooted in Sardinia, grappled with universal human problems, moral dilemmas, the struggle between sin and redemption, and the force of destiny. Then, in 1926, the pinnacle of academic recognition arrived. Grazia Deledda was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for her idealistically inspired writings, which with plastic clarity picture the life on her native island, and with depth and sympathy deal with human problems in general. Her response to the news was a Characteristically humble and surprised, Gia, already. The fame that followed was a new kind of storm. Journalists flocked to her home. Even Mussolini's regime sought to co-opt her success. But Deledda remained steadfastly herself. The story is told of her beloved pet crow, Cheka, who grew irritated by the commotion of visitors. If Cheka has had enough, so have I, Deledda declared, showing her guests the door and returning to her quiet, disciplined life. The final decade of Deledda's life was marked by her most personal and difficult struggle, a long and painful battle with breast cancer. Yet, even as her body grew frail, her spirit and dedication to her craft did not. She continued to adhere to her writing schedule, producing works that reflected a more optimistic vision of life. Her last novel, La Chiesa della Solitude in the Church of Solitude, 1936, is a powerful, semi-autobiographical account of a young woman confronting a terminal illness. In it, she transformed her own suffering into art. After her death on August 15, 1936, a carefully stored manuscript was discovered in a drawer. The novel Cosima, published posthumously, a final gift to the world. From a self-educated girl in a remote village to a Nobel laureate celebrated across the globe, Grazia Deledda's journey was a monumental act of rising. She faced the constraints of her gender, the limitations of her geography, and the scorn of her society. She navigated fame and battled a devastating illness. Through it all, she never stopped writing, never stopped telling the stories of her island, and never stopped asserting her right to a creative life. She was like the reeds in the wind from her masterpiece, bent by the powerful forces of fate, tradition, and pain, but never broken. Her roots, fed by an unyielding resilience, held firm. She proved that a voice, once risen, can echo through history. It reminds us that when women rise, history truly does change.